So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the PowerCat Questions Podcast, our weekly podcast in which the users at Wabash Station, our VIP message board at GoPowerCat, ask us the questions and we do our best to answer, or we just make stuff up. That's what I do. I'm Tim Fitzgerald, joined by Zach Carlson and Ryan Gilbert, as we take another tour through the minds of our users and what is on their minds. And we are sponsored by The Fridge, wholesale liquor here in Manhattan. Make sure you stop in The Fridge if you're in town over the next few weeks, this football season, or any time in your lifetime. Stop into The Fridge and say hello to Kevin and everyone that works there. Our segment sponsors are Tanner's and the High Low. When you come to town, make sure you get to Aggieville. Stop into either of those wonderful places with wonderful people. They get their liquor from The Fridge, so why don't you? I've already got a dog barking in the background. I am off to a good start. Guys, it's getting pretty exciting around here. We're officially out of our offices, and that means it's time to start preparing a new home office. My Hawaii-themed personal office that we've been kind of using is going to go by the wayside. This will go back to being our home office, and I will actually build out a studio down in our lower level. It's going to be very exciting. And maybe someday we'll be able to do this all in person in the studio in my house.
And maybe your dogs won't interrupt you anymore.
They will. They give no you-know-whats. When someone comes to the door, they want me to know it. And sometimes, almost every time I'm doing a podcast, Daphne comes up to my side and starts pawing at me to give her attention, much like Zach does. It's really awkward, and that's why we're really doing this via Zoom, because Zach paws at me. It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. Guys, how's your week going? That was a nice win by Kansas State. I was a little worried about it coming off that Oklahoma game, and I feel like everyone's just going to be a little bit inconsistent all football season, all teams. Not as inconsistent as Mississippi State. Whew, how'd you do that? But I feel like everyone's going to struggle, and I like the way that Kansas State responded, and I like the way that Will Howard came in and still managed to quarterback them to a victory, even though things were kind of sliding against the Wildcats.
Yeah, it was a good win. There was a point in that second half I told Fitz, texted him saying, I feel the exact opposite as I did at OU. The momentum was going at OU. Everything was going K-State's way in that second half. I felt the exact inverse of that, Texas Tech was scoring, they take the lead, and I'm just like, yep, K-State's going to lose this game. But, they get a couple plays, they pull it off, and they extend the lead even. So it was a good win.
A inside the program controversy was uncovered on my Sources podcast with Steve Stannard. I had forgotten that Daniel Green's nickname is Deuce. Because he's number 2.
He's 22.
He's 22 also.
They're both 22.
That's right. But his nickname has been Deuce. I don't know why. Maybe he's a junior. But now everyone's calling him Daniel. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the guy can't be Deuce anymore. You can't have a nickname that is someone else's name. For example, if we hired someone named Fitz McGillicuddy and that was his real name, I'd have problems using my nickname. But I'd make him change his first name, actually. That's what I would do.
We'd call him Gills.
We'd call him Gills.
Exactly.
We'd call him Gills. So Deuce, the little one, the new one is pretty darn good, and fans are excited, and I hope he doesn't get broken. That's just my hope for the game. I just don't want him to get anyone to break him. Let's get going. Your questions from Wabash Station. Here's Gills. It's not very good.
First question. That was anticlimactic, huh? First question of the podcast from Wildcat True. Give me your most improved player on offense and defense from game one.
Oh, from game one. Most improved player on offense since game one. It's hard to say because the line was out of sorts, but it's got to be one of the linemen, I would think. I don't know.
I can't. If it is a lineman, I can't pick one.
It's like the whole group.
Yeah. Like, I don't think anybody's been, most improved. They've improved consistently together. Part of me just wants to say Deuce Vaughn. Every week, he gets better.
I know.
It's better every week. And I still think there's room for him to improve.
Oh, much.
Until he has a bad game, I think it's going to be Deuce Vaughn every week is the answer to this question. Who's most improved? It's Deuce.
He might get 150 yards rushing, score 3 touchdowns, and rescue a kitten from a tree at TCU. He just kind of keeps doing things. You're right. I think that is the answer. It's Deuce Vaughn. Because they keep putting more on his plate, and he's like, I can take it. Come on, let's go. And it's pretty impressive. Defensively, again, they were missing so many guys that, you can't say Jerron McPherson or Khalid Duke or any of those guys. And I don't know that if it's the interior of the line. I just think that the secondary is so much better. I mean, I really like the corners they're using now. I feel bad for the corners that have missed games because they may not have starting positions anymore between Gardner and I don't know. That's a tough question because so many guys have come and gone. It's hard to judge from game 1 to 3.
Yeah, I think on defense, it's tough to find guys that have played all 3 games. There's been, a couple guys that might have played the first couple games, some guys that played the last 2, only played 1 game. I don't think there's anybody, at least from the guys that have played all 3 games, there's nobody that really sticks out. Wyatt Hubert, no. AJ Parker, no. Good. It's great that AJ Parker is stepping up and playing that nickel now. And it seems that there's some, shiftability there, to try getting your best guys out on the field. Cause I think AJ Parker is one of the best to put out on that defense, but it's gotta be one of these new guys, and it's not even improving. It's just, they showed up and they played, Echo Boydo, Justin Gardner, TJ Smith, man, guys that stepped up when called upon. I feel like this question maybe should be asked again in a couple more weeks and saying, from first appearance, who has, improved the most, I guess. But yeah, game 1 was just, I feel like the Arkansas State game is such an outlier. Even, 3 games into the season, I think it's tough to use that. And again, the OU game's going to be an outlier. I think it's just with so many guys that are out, injured, or with COVID or quarantine or isolating, whatever it is, I don't know if you're ever going to see a consistent look game to game. And I think that trying to determine who's the most improved over, since game 1, I think it's going to be difficult to figure out.
I just know this. I don't want TJ Smith ever to want to tackle me. Ever. No. Oh, my gosh, he hits.
New office linebacker?
Oh. Oh, my goodness. I had to make Gills block for me. Go get him, Gills. Go get him.
That was me.
Yep.
I think A.J. Parker has actually improved a lot from game 1. I mean, Adams was just tearing him up with Arkansas State. So I'm with you. The offense, no one really sticks out. I mean, Deuce is a safe answer. I mean, if Skylar was healthy, as we're recording this right now, I think you could say he improved the most. But, I mean, the offense, it's just tough when you, like you said it best, Zach, these games are they're crazy. But I think on defense, I do think A.J. Parker has really made some steps forward. He had a block punt against Oklahoma. Didn't really give up any of those big plays against Texas Tech. So I think he's improved a lot.
Yeah, but to make a quick argument here, the block punt is just kind of luck and special teams. So I don't feel I could assess him saying, yeah, he's really improved because he got a fluke play. I mean, it was still a great play. You love to see it, but I just don't. I think for him, if you want to mark his improvement, just being able to step into a new position, and play, good enough, and allowing those new guys to shine at cornerback. I think that's, that says a lot to me, I guess.
Yeah. Next question from Runaway Train. I saw some discussion on Twitter on whether the 2 quarterbacks hit were dirty. I freely admit my bias, but I didn't see Duke's hit as malicious, but Texas Tech's felt like payback. Thoughts?
I know a lot of people are saying that, but it didn't feel that way to me. It just feels like the way they wanted to play. They didn't feel like it was targeting, even though it really does kind of fit targeting. I didn't think it was malicious. I mean, and in fact, he didn't injure the side that was hit. He injured his other side. He was hit on the left, and he injured his right because it was actually the fall that injured him, not the actual hit. Khalid Duke, I mean, I'm not a big fan of that rule. You can't hit him up high, and now you can't hit him low. You got this tiny little area. You might as well put flags on the quarterback. You got to pull a flag. You can't actually tackle him anymore. Just pull the flag. I mean, by the rules, it was a penalty, but I don't think he intended to injure him. He was just trying to tackle him, and he got shoved down, and he was making a low play, and I'm not even sure Khalid knew that the ball was away. He just saw him standing there. He was still in a passer's pose and went to take him down. I don't think – it's football, guys. It's football. Malicious to me is someone is clearly out of bounds and you hit him. Malicious to me is someone's down and you know he's down and you spear him. If the ball's in play and you hit someone, it might be targeting, it might be deemed dirty by the rules, but I don't necessarily think it's malicious. I don't think Eli Sullivan or TJ Smith were being malicious. I think they were just trying to hit people hard, and I think the same's true for the Texas Tech linebacker.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, like Chris Kleiman said at the end, he was asked about it, and he's like, no, it wasn't payback. It's football. I mean, you're going to have hits. You're going to have injuries. I mean, you know what you're watching. You know what you signed up for. So I didn't really take issue to either of them. And then even the I think Elijah's was the first one when they called that for targeting. I really didn't think that it was going to, stand. I thought it'd be called back. You look at it on the big screen and, it wasn't going to be targeting. But what was interesting to me was TJ Smith's hit. I thought that was probably closer than Elijah's, and that didn't even come from a flag. That came from a booth review. In the end, it wasn't targeting, but I was worried about that. But when I saw that, I put in the game thread. I'm like, man, TJ Smith likes to hit. I don't want to be on the end of that, and I think he's probably going to be K-State's first ejection this year. That's
no
who
doubt.
my money's on. I mean, and I think someone even said it. It was like, just throw TJ Smith out there, tell him to have fun. And, once it's time for him to go take a shower, whatever point in the game that is, just go do it. I guess you don't have to go to the locker room anymore, but you can stand on the sideline. But
that's a good question.
Stands.
Would you stand on the sideline, or would you? I like the guys that go say, you know what? I'm going to go shower and I'm going to come back out and be in my street clothes because when this game's over, it's party time for me. I am already done. I'll get on the plane, go home, and go get after it. Yeah, I wouldn't
even come back out.
I don't know. I would either.
I'd
Especially
go
if it's on
stay
TV.
Inside, watch it on TV, and
we got a jacuzzi with a TV. I think I'll be
have
in
all
here.
your stuff packed.
Yeah.
Or just try going up to a suite.
Yeah, just hang out. Yeah.
I feel like, don't baseball managers sometimes do that? Or I know it happens in soccer sometimes. They'll send them to the stands. You'll just watch in the stands or in a suite. You just hang out. I think they should do that for the guys.
I think when the South End Zone project is done, if I got ejected, you'd find me in the Shamrock Zone bar. I'd be up there. That call against that quarterback sure stunk. He got ejected. But it's me. I don't know why Skylar sounds that way.
If Wyatt Hubert ever got ejected, I could totally see him just going and sitting in the student section.
I could too. Take his shirt off.
Yeah.
It turns out his chest has already been painted. He was ready for it.
Yeah, he's already got a letter K on it.
Yeah.
Like he's going to go replace that guy.
From StatCat, historically we have these terms: redshirt freshman for players who still have 4 years of eligibility but are in their second year in college; true freshman who is in his first year of eligibility and in school and has a red shirt available. Next year, we will need to create a new term for people in their second year who have 4 years of eligibility remaining and can still redshirt. I propose COVID freshman. What say you?
I don't know. It's a good one.
You're going to have to come up with something to explain this. I mean, you're going to have. I mean, it's really not the true freshmen that have a different term, I guess. Maybe so. I mean, if they play all next year, they're a freshman, then they'll be a sophomore. I mean, they're no different than a redshirt freshman at that point. It'll be the redshirt freshman from this season that if they play again next season as a redshirt freshman, they'll be a third-year freshman. I don't know. Can't we just come up with a color? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you need another color shirt. You've got red shirt, you have gray shirt. Now there's a blue shirt.
There's blue shirts, which I don't really understand.
And then you still got orange, yellow.
I say we
green.
go with green. I like green for it because I don't know. I don't know why.
We have no real say here. Or they should just do it the NFL. Just everybody who's in their first year is a rookie with an R. And then you just put number of years of experience that you have next to them, and that's the system from now on. And then, Justin Hughes and Elijah Sullivan will have a big old 7 next to their name or whatever it is.
My God. They're going to be getting PhDs, playing linebacker, gray hair coming out, their helmets. It's going to be awesome. Just awesome.
Teammates getting them walkers
for
their birthdays probably.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
From Purple Beef Eater, would we be seeing as many true freshmen play if this year counted towards eligibility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they would still get the 4 seasons, not the singing group, but the 4 games. I mean,
4 games.
So yeah, they'd get to play. I mean, true freshmen played last year and came back as freshmen this year. So that opportunity is there, but they get all the other games that are free. Deuce could have gotten 4 games in and then shut it down, but now he might get 10 games in plus a bowl game if everything goes well, and get in a full season and still come back as a freshman. So that's kind of nice.
I think if this would have been a normal season, I think that Deuce probably would have played just as much or close to. I think his red shirt probably would have been burned this year. He probably would have played in more than 4 games. And I think that some of it is, Snyder, his last few years, he kind of mailed it in as far as recruiting goes. There were going to be a lot of younger guys playing earlier than what you may have liked. So I think that, without COVID, I still think you would see a number of guys playing, whether they were freshmen, true freshmen or not, or, you're going to see a lot of young guys this year. And I think, you would have seen a lot of true freshmen actually have to play.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Deuce was going to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the upside of the pandemic is you're going to get to play him and get him back as a freshman. It is great for a program in K-State's position in which they need to rely on a lot of young players to supplement their depth, because next year those players will still be the same age and have experience. So it's a real advantage right now. It really works to K-State's benefit. And I know people get upset when we talk about Coach Snyder's recruiting. Folks, it wasn't very good the last few years. He got some players. There's no doubt about it. There's some good players on the team, but we're talking about the kind of depth you need to support a program. And it just wasn't there. The quality wasn't there. He had so many players. If you go back and look at recruiting classes, almost always 20% of the class would be, who was that guy? I mean, they never appeared. They never made it. They were in and out. And there wasn't the kind of depth. And this now has afforded Chris Kleiman an incredible opportunity, just a tragic year and everything going on, to build that kind of depth you need for the program going forward. It could be really a big advantage for Kansas State.
I mean, let's pretend like this pandemic happened 2 years ago, 2018, and you have to put a whole bunch of defensive starters out. You don't have guys like Justin Gardner or TJ Smith or Deuce Vaughn to put in. You don't have those guys. So, and since you didn't have those guys then, their senior counterparts now, or whoever would have, they would be playing now if they were there to replace whoever the starters were. So the fact that you're having to use the freshmen now, I think it says a lot.
You can just go back to 2012 when they had an injury in their secondary, and they go from Ty Zimmerman to a redshirt freshman and Dante Barnett who wasn't ready to play. That's how thin the depth has been for a long time in the program. They were always one injury away from really having a dramatic drop-off in experience and ability, and that's what happened in 12. They lost to Baylor. They came back and did win the next game, but they're dealing right now at K-State. They're playing guys that weren't on the depth chart at cornerback. They're playing them. They started the second game of the season. They had 3 deep at corner, and I can tell you right now, as God is my witness, Bill Snyder never had a 3-man depth chart at a cornerback spot where he would put them into action and they'd be able to perform. That's not how he did it. It's not it. That wasn't it. They didn't recruit that kind of depth, unfortunately, and it did kind of haunt the program at times, and I'm glad to see it's being corrected, and it's going to take another couple years to fully correct it.
Next question from Itame BB. Is Coach Kleiman playing true freshmen to play the best players available, or is it a part of recruiting tactics?
I think he's playing best players, but it also recruiting.
I don't think it's tactics. I mean, I think it's a side effect of playing. You got to, he's playing the best players available. They just happen to be freshmen. And I wouldn't say it's because of recruiting, but it certainly helps it. Like, hey, you could play early here. But like we talked about in the last question, this is a side effect of bad recruiting from 3-4 years ago. The problems we're seeing on the offensive line, there's a ton of problems still on this depth chart that Kleiman's going to have to work out. And the fact of the matter is, these freshmen are better than what they came in and had to replace. And it wasn't really going to be a lot to take that, considering Deuce. And now, as you've seen, as some of the defensive secondary step up. So, I think, he's playing them as the best players, but it'll certainly help recruiting.
Next question from WTDD 2001. What does Chris Kleiman's extension mean for the future of K-State football?
I don't know. I mean, everyone wants him to stay, but if a coach wants to leave, if someone wants to pay his $5 million buyout and he wants to leave, he'll leave. And it doesn't matter how much you pay him. If the right job comes along, he'll leave. That's just the way the industry works. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it really means a damn thing other than he's going to make a lot more money and be able to sell the fact on recruiting that, hey, I'm setting up shop here for a long haul. I'm not going anywhere. But does that mean anything? I mean, I don't know what the right program is, but if someone comes along and throws money at him and says, hey, you could take over Michigan. I mean, he's going to go, guys. He just is. What Bill Snyder did was so rare. I mean, he had opportunities to leave and he didn't. And he kind of understood that what he was doing may not be able to be replicated at a UCLA. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of giving coaches new contracts after 1 year. Period. You did your job. Good job. Good job. You did it better than we thought you would. We thought you'd be average, and you were above average. I mean, I don't understand it. I've never understood it about the industry, and maybe it'd make me a bad AD to go in and say, hey, coach, you did a really good job this year, but your agent called about getting a contract extension. I just signed you to a 5-year contract to do the job that you're doing, and I appreciate you doing it well. Maybe we get a couple years down the road. We'll look at that. But now, no, we signed you up to win. We didn't sign you to a contract thinking you were going to lose. I mean, I don't know, guys. It just kind of bothers me, but I'm happy for Chris Kleiman. He's a good dude, and I hope he stays at Kansas State for a long time. He's a nice fit, but the business of college athletics, this is why they're broke. Right here. Yeah. This is it. You did your job. Here's a couple extra $1 million. Really? Okay. Great business model.
I mean, the problem is, though, you have to defend against those schools that are going to come and poach your coach. You don't want that rhyme. That was impressive. I didn't even try that.
Good.
I'm kind of shook by that. You got to defend against these other other schools. And if you go out and you go 8-5 in your first year and you were an FC, I mean, he earned, coming to play or coach in the Big 12 at K-State after what he did in the FCS, winning 4 national championships. Then he comes to FCS. He plays well in his first year. It's clear that K-State's going to be good a couple of years from now. They're going to be good. So I think you have to, you got to defend against, the other schools, because, you got to essentially what you got to do is name your price as to what it'll take for you to be happy if he leaves, and I didn't read what the buyout was, but if it's $5 million, that's what K-State values him at, as, hey, this is how much it'll cost for you to leave or somebody to pay us to take you. So, I see, yeah, I understand your side of the argument, Fitz, but, from the business side, if you're a K-State fan and you like Chris Kleiman now and you want him to stay, you'd be glad. You don't want him to be, the new Matt Campbell of December, where Matt Campbell's name gets thrown around for whatever big job is open that year. And, they extended Matt Campbell at Iowa State. He's definitely less affordable for a lot of these places. I think that this defends against Chris Kleiman becoming the affordable Matt Campbell replacement that goes in all the hot lists, come December.
Well, Matt Campbell's on his way to the Hall of Fame, so I don't know who will ever be able to afford him. In fact, they might just rename the College Football Hall of Fame the Matt Campbell College Football Hall of Fame. Okay, let's move on. I'm done with taking shots at Matt Campbell.
I think it's interesting, real quick, though. Me and my roommate were actually talking about this the other day. How good do you want Chris Kleiman to be? Because, I think we can all agree last year he exceeded expectations, and that team maybe played a little better than they were, especially in some of those games. But, if he wins 8 or 9 games and, this year, next year, he might be gone. You look at Matt Rule with Baylor last year and the year before, they weren't that good. I know Riley Gates can argue about that with me, but I don't think they were that good. And now Matt Rule he had a lot more potential that wasn't, met at Baylor. And I think if they kept him, if he stays there, Baylor's just going to keep getting better and better. You don't want that to happen with Kleiman, if that makes sense. You don't want him to do too good in his first couple of years and then he's just gone. You want him to, my roommate was saying, hey, I don't want K-State to make the Big 12 championship game. I want them to gradually get better so that Kleiman won't leave. So I understand what both of you guys are saying, but if you're a recruit, it's probably a good feeling to say that, yeah, he's probably not going to go anywhere, at least anytime soon. So I can see both sides to this, but overall, to answer that question, I'm happy with the extension.
Well, Gills, you've done a pretty good job for me here in the first year. I like what you've done. I'm kind of afraid I'm going to lose you to someone else, so I'm going to bump you from $12 an hour to $1.7 million a year. And I think that'll probably keep you in the fold. You want more? You think more? Oh, 2.4. I'll give you 2.4.
That's why I brought this up. I was trying to get a raise. I think it worked.
Okay. Well,
I guess to close on my thought here is if you're Gene Taylor and any AD in the country, you want to be the one that goes to your coach first. You don't want come at the end of the season the agent coming up to you saying, hey, this is the offer. You gonna match or we're gone. And by that point you've got one foot out the door. So if you can keep your coach happy to where they're not looking around, or if what their market value is, I think that's good for the program.
Okay, guys, 21 months ago, 22 months ago, Chris Kleiman was in Fargo making $300,000 a year. His contract, when it starts maturing here, he'll be at $4.2 million a year. I don't know. I think the numbers are they're whack.
I think
it doesn't work as a business model. And I understand everything you say, Zach, and I understand why athletic directors do it, and I understand all that. But I'm telling you right here and now, eventually it's going to break their backs, and college athletics is going to collapse. That's one of the things we're learning from the pandemic, how financially fragile they are, and maybe we all are, but I'm not throwing around millions of dollars, and It just astonishes me, these numbers, and how different it is from being a really good coach at the FCS level to being a really good coach at the FBS level. It's worth 1,000% raise. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a bubble that's going to burst at some point, and I don't know when it'll happen, but yeah, you'll see. There'll be there'll be Power 5 athletic departments, at some point saying, hey, we lost our guy, but we're not going to try replacing that salary. We're going to go find a good, solid option and just kind of ride it out. And maybe it's, going after somebody like Kleiman who's making $300,000, saying, hey, we'll pay you $1 million. And you can make $1 million every year until somebody decides to pay you more. I think that could be the future for athletic departments. And I think you're right about that, Fitz.
Last question of the first half from Itane Bibi. Now that Chris Kleiman is extended, who are the assistant coaches we cannot afford to lose?
I think you don't want disruption at all. I mean, I don't want to say that Jason Ray leaves is no big deal. I mean, that's not fair to him or anyone else. I think right now he's got coordinators and an associate head coach in Van Malone that he's on the same page with. Connor Riley probably would jump out at me. You probably want to get that consistency in that offensive line play. But, you just want stability in your coordinators and your kind of upper tier leadership. But I would say Connor Riley is the one that kind of jumps out at me as someone that a big program might come after. They might throw the kind of money Scotty Hazelton made at him to be their offensive line coach. And that's where you can't really pay and compete.
I'd probably agree with you, Fitz, that Connor Riley's probably the one that would be most likely to leave. I'd say probably Van Malone too. I'd say you'd want to keep both of them, but from Riley being poached, I just, what he's done on the offensive line so far hasn't been amazing. I mean, a lot of it's just youth and inexperience. I feel like in order for Connor Riley to be poached, it's going to take his offensive line playing a lot better. I don't think that his guys are playing well enough to earn him a new job. So
maybe by season's end.
I'm not really worried about anybody. And even if they do lose somebody, I don't feel like we're missing anything. Maybe if Colin Klein leaves just because he's the one, lone holdover from, the old staff and, he's a legend in his own right, it'd probably sting a little bit to see him go somewhere else. But, if he goes somewhere else and he's, an offensive coordinator and, it's time, somebody decides that Chris Kleiman's worth $5 million, maybe he's the next guy. So, there's always, you can kind of look at it other ways to see, who you lose and what their value is. But I don't want to say anybody's not valuable on this coaching staff, but there's not one piece that I'm overly attached to that I feel makes this program better than what a replacement could make it.
I would hope Van Malone is going to stay for a while, unless he gets a head coaching job, which I would love to see. I don't know where, but I would love to see it. I mean, he'd electrify a fan base and probably jumpstart recruiting. People would just love him. So, okay, that's it for the first half of the PowerCat Questions podcast, and that was a long first half. But I had to go back and cut out dog wrestling. We had some serious dog wrestling going on in the studio. They refused to stay out of the studio because they're bad dogs. Speaking of bad dogs, we'll be back.
The PowerCat podcast will be right back.
Getting the crew together isn't as easy as it used to be. We get it. Life comes at you fast. But trust us, your pals are desperate for a good hang. And when they hear you stock the party with drinks from Drizzly, they'll be banging down your door. Let Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery, take care of the supplies. All you need is an excuse. It doesn't even have to be a good one. It's your dog's birthday. The loquats are finally ripe. Whatever. With Drizzly, you can compare prices on a massive selection of beer, wine, and spirits and get them delivered straight to your door, which means you can entice the crew to leave their houses without ever leaving yours. Whatever the occasion, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
We now send it back to the PowerCat podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor, and thank you so much to our segment sponsors, Tanner's and the High-Low. Make sure you're heading to Aggieville and checking them out every time you're in town. I think you will enjoy both places tremendously, and make sure when you go to the High-Low you get pepperoni bricks. They are good for at least 5 pounds of added weight. I feel like you're eating butter, bread, and meat the way it was meant to be eaten, Zach. Just delicious. But it's not healthy at all. But do it. And when you go to Tanner's, there's so many things you should be getting. My favorite is the KC burger. It's a burger with an onion ring and pulled pork on it. Basically, it's horrible for you too. So both of my food recommendations could cause a heart attack. So there's a Surgeon General warning on the show that don't listen to the advice of Fitz.
Well, there's also a new restaurant, not a sponsor, but they were in an old sponsor of ours. Nico's is now open.
It is open.
Posted that the other day on Wabash. Can't wait to go down there. I'm excited. Some little Martinelli's action.
Nico's Little. And Nico, I learned, is Nicole. It's a female owner. Nico. I love it. I love it. Speaking of things
excited.
I love, it's your questions from Wabash Station from a guy that I sort of like, Gills.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
First question of the second half from TDE67. What is more likely against TCU? We block a punt or get a touchdown return on special teams?
Well, they do kind of go together. I mean, you scare the punter, and he just starts getting rid of the ball and kicking it right down the middle of the field to your return man on a play that you're setting up a return. It can lead to a return. I will be absolutely astonished if Gary Patterson lets Kansas State block a punt. I think he's going to do everything possible to prevent that from happening. And maybe K-State will just surrender the battle and say, you know what, we're going to make you think we're coming and then just continue to return punts because The return game is a sleeping giant. It would help to get Joshua Youngblood back on kickoffs, but who knows what's going on with him.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'd say a punt block's more likely. They're 3 for 3. Why not go 4 for 4? The return game has been pretty lackluster this year. There's not much confidence there. I'm much more confident that they'll block a punt. So, they're on a streak of 3. I feel like there might be a little bit of pride on those first couple punts. And if they're inside, if TCU's inside their own 20-yard line, why not send everybody? So, and they've been quick too. I don't know if it's just been the punters have been slow or what, but man, K-State's been quick to get back there. And, by the time they're blocking the punt, it almost feels like everything's just in slow motion. The punter should have gotten it off by that point. So
yeah,
that's my call. Saturday,
Seth Porter got around that blocking. I don't know what that guy was doing, but he kind of ducked around him. Yeah, the wedge guy. And it was like, he just kind of was there, had to wait for the punt. I mean, it was really impressive. It was like, are you going to punt it? Because I'm going to block it. As soon as you get ready to punt, let me know, and I'm going to block it. Well, it's impressive. It's just amazing what K-State special teams has become. Because this is I'm going to say it this way. It's the fourth coach that this happened with. 1.0 started it. Prince picked it up. 2.0 continued it. And now Kleiman's picked it up. It's just incredible how dominant K-State special teams have become through the years.
Do you think that Snyder's played a role in that? He's built up all these great special teams guys that he gives them to these new coaches, and they're there for, 3 or less years so far. And it's just, well, we got these guys. They've been trained to do this. I guess we got to use them. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, Sean was there under Prince, so that helped. And Sean was there, of course, during 2.0. But Sean wasn't really the special teams coach 1.0. I mean, he helped out with kickers and stuff behind the scenes. But, I mean, they had other guys that were in charge of return games. It's just very impressive. But he inherited – this is one of the things that – a positive thing to say. He inherited guys from Coach Snyder who appreciated the importance of special teams, who knew that's a place in the game that they could get an angle on and make games tilt to their favor. They understood the purpose of it, and they were invested in it, and that has carried over to this staff.
I know somebody asked the question, and I don't have an answer for it, about which coach is in charge of the punt blocks, but I do know Kleiman did reveal today that the fake field goal, that's all Connor Riley on that, which I thought was interesting. That your offensive line coach is the guy that's running special teams plays like fake field goals. Just kind of surprising to me, I guess.
I would guess that would be, typically a team just divvies up different special teams units to different coaches. And I guess since field goal placement kicking is mostly protection, I can see why an offensive line coach would be in charge. I know that in the past, like in Snyder 2.0, the kickoff return team, it was Dana Dimmel in charge of protection, the blocking schemes, and then Andre Coleman with the returners. And then on game days, Sean would decide left, right, middle, whatever their play they were going to run. And then he got all the credit. But
probably guess, I don't know, Buddy or Klannerman.
I mean, like punt coverage is probably defensive coaches.
Yeah. I'm thinking punt block here is what I was thinking.
Yeah, punt block
is somebody that's going to rush and get pressure. Or,
I can see that.
I don't know.
That being Van Malone for some reason. That's just my guess. Because, I mean, usually it's the corners or little guys coming off that corner to actually make the punt
I guess
block.
That's true. That's fair.
From claws out, balls out, I didn't think Skylar would return next year, but with a prolonged injury, do you think that will change that?
I honestly don't know. And, I asked both Bradley Moore and Noah Johnson today about the 5th year or the 6th year, whatever it is, the extra year you can have as a senior. Both of them said they haven't even thought about it, although Noah kind of sounded like he thought about it a little bit. And Noah's like, I'm going to be back. I just don't want to say it. I don't think Skylar was going to come back. But now if he loses the rest of the year, I'm not sure why he wouldn't. But if Will Howard plays quarterback for 7 more games plus a bowl game, it's going to get a little interesting whether or not he would be considered the starter coming back. So, I don't know. It'd be a tough choice. Everyone assumes that guys will want to come back. you know what? I was done with college by my fifth year. I did 4.5 years. I mailed that last semester, and I was just done. And I was still having fun and still loving hanging out, but I had to get out of college. And I think some football players are going to feel the exact same way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I don't know what Skylar's thinking, but, if he's injured and if Will Howard comes out and plays the rest of the, 7 more games plus a bowl game, and let's say they play well, it's not unreasonable that Will Howard doesn't come in and just can win some games. I mean, he'll have some losses this year. I'm certain of it, but who knows? I mean, they knocked out 2 games. They knocked out Oklahoma. They essentially have a 3-game lead on OU at this point. You already knocked out one of your biggest contenders for the championship. You're sitting pretty good. Yeah, you got a true freshman quarterback, but I mean, if he plays well, Will's going to have all the confidence in the world, even if he has to compete for the job next year if Skylar comes back. So, I don't know. And maybe this is, and we'll get into it in a future, in the next question, I think here. But this might be, it could be time for Skylar to either maybe transition to being a GA or being a coach.
I think a lot of it depends on if Howard is the starter for the rest of the season, how he does. If he does a pretty good job, then I think Skylar's probably gone. If he struggles, then I think Skylar's going to be coming back. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, but I want to ask you guys real quick, why wasn't anyone on Twitter or the Wabash Station discussion boards calling for Nick Goss to come into this game? Because, you guys can probably tell me I'm wrong, but I didn't see much out of Will Howard. And before that, touchdown that they got there, I thought he was struggling, and I was a little confused why no one was calling for Ost. I really don't get it. You guys know?
I think people would just want to see the freshman.
Yeah.
Let's just see what he's got. I mean, this is it's not a normal year. I think people were like, okay, let's play the freshman, see what's going on. I imagine Nick Ost's parents were wondering why he wasn't getting a chance. I think we will see Nick Ost on Saturday at some point, because here's why. TCU, first of all, I'll even just put it out there. I don't think Skylar's playing. I think this is all gamesmanship from Coach Kleiman, very Snyder-esque. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to practice this week. And he just said he might be back at practice tomorrow. And I wanted to, we're on the Zoom teleconference. I wanted to go, and I didn't think that was appropriate, so I didn't do it. But they're going to come after Will Howard. They're going to throw a bunch of things to try to confuse the freshman at him, and he's going to get hit. Not dirty, not malicious, playing the game of football. Will Howard's going to get hit harder than he's ever been hit in the course of a game before. So I think we will see Nick Ost some down in Fort Worth, and I think Nick's a good quarterback. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just think the upside is all with Will Howard. It's all the future investment. He is a true freshman. You want to find out if he's got whatever it is, because you got another good freshman coming in next year. So you're going to use this season to kind of sort things out.
Yeah, and kind of like what I said earlier, I think before the season started, there was a question, if Skylar goes down, who are you taking? Are you taking Will or are you taking Nick? And I said Nick, because he has, he really hasn't had to play a ton, and he really hasn't had that much experience, but, he was, the scout team player of the year, I think, a couple of years ago. I mean, he's earned his keep as being, lower on the depth chart over the last couple of years. And, just being in the system and learning it and being able to be there, especially longer than Will Howard. I mean, Will Howard didn't even have a spring to play with. So, that's kind of what my eyes were with Nick. But, like this season is just so crazy. Once they went with Will against Arkansas State, I was like, all right, well, it's not Nick. So, you might as well get behind Will. I was a bit surprised to see it, but, it makes sense. And at this point, there's no downside to playing Will Howard.
I'm not going to be surprised if Jaron Lewis doesn't see some action. I mean, maybe they set him up in some, specific plays to use him. If Skylar's not ready to go, I think they're going to get creative and have some fun at quarterback.
From Power Cat Ryan, if Skylar's season is over, is he more valuable coming back to play next season or starting his GA career and putting him on the same track as Nathan Shieldhouse so we can really put a border around KC?
Yeah, Nathan Schillhouse or Haas, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. He was a quarterback at Illinois for 4 seasons in the early, like from 2010 to 2013. He's now the wide receivers coach at Iowa State, and I think he played at Rockhurst in KC. So I think that might be his, recruiting area, or it's an area that at the very least he's very familiar with. But
I can't answer this question. This is too hypothetical. We got too much season to play. I don't know if Skylar is going to return or not. I don't know. I don't know if Will Howard's going to be good or if he'll have a couple good games and everyone will figure him out. There's just too many moving pieces here. I hope Skylar goes into coaching. I suspect he will, and I think he will make a good coach for someone. But I don't know. But I do agree it'd be nice to have someone from the Kansas City area recruiting Kansas City.
I would say that, answering the question, I guess, if he is done for the season, is he more valuable as a player or a coach next year? I'd say he's more valuable as a coach. You're going to have Jake Frubley. You're going to have Will Howard. 2 young guys that, one of them is going to be the guy. You'd hope, I guess, that, one of them is going to be the best and they're going to come out. You got Colin Klein there, K-State quarterback, legend. And then having Skylar Thompson, who's, he might see some of the Jake Waters effect where you don't really remember him as a great quarterback, but Skylar's pretty good. He's been pretty good. And, having 2, K-State quarterbacks in that coaching room and that quarterback's room, helping 2 young guys that are really good, prospects. They were, well rated coming out of high school. They're going to be good players. So I think as far as, a value, I think for K-State, I think it's more important to take care of 2023, 2024, 2025, at your quarterback position than trying to have a good 2021 with a guy that's, been around for a while. And I think now is the time that you need to build. The season's a crapshoot. Like we'll say, we've said it today, we've said it in the past, we'll say it 1,000 more times in the future. This season doesn't mean a ton. And if you can get a young guy experience where there isn't really a lot of pressure, I think you got to do it. So that's kind of my view. That's is that I think Skylar's going to be more valuable next year as a coach if he determines, or as a GA, depending on what his decision would be.
Next question from Texas Cat 93. Max Duggan looks good, but not great. He's young and prone to mistakes. Can our depleted defense cause enough havoc this Saturday to make it a tough day for TCU?
He had a day with K-State last year. Wasn't it Max Duggan that looked like Al Roberson for most of the game? He was running everywhere. He was like running in slow motion, but nobody could catch him. It was weird. It's like he's uncorking a 6.0 40 time and nobody can catch him. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's part of mistakes.
Was Saturday his first game
back?
Was that his first game against Texas? Yeah. So
he played the game before against Iowa State in the second half.
Oh, he did.
Quite honestly, they would have won that game easily if he played the whole game.
Mm-hmm. So
there's my answer. That says anything right there, but
yeah,
I like him. I think he's good. But I think he's like all Big 12 quarterbacks right now. There's nobody that's consistently good, and there's certainly nobody worthy of even putting on a list of 10 to 20 Heisman contenders. No. Is it the conference this year at quarterback just isn't as good? It's kind of a transition year. But if anyone's capable of developing a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, it's Matt Campbell, because he is the greatest college coach to ever coach the game. He's incredible. And his quarterback is awful Purdy.
Oh,
there's the pun.
Get out of here.
I don't really know if youth is going to be a problem for. Is it Duggan or Dugan? I always look at it and it doesn't look like Duggan to me. It looks like Dugan. I don't know. Maybe a little bit, but just seeing how enthusiastic K-State's defense has played, even, and with a lot of absences, if TJ Smith is on the field on Saturday, which he will be, and he can get to the quarterback on some sort of play, maybe you can make him make some mistakes, but I don't know if the defense is going to be good enough to force some mistakes. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I like him, but I'm not quaking in fear of him either.
Yeah, he could have a good game, he could have a bad game. It's kind of what it is right now in the Big 12.
For those who don't know, they diagnosed him with some sort of heart condition that he's had his whole life, and they didn't think he was going to play at all this season. And then a couple weeks back, he was cleared to go. And then that Iowa State game in the first half, the backup was in. He didn't look good. It was kind of a disaster. And then Duggan came in and really he looked great, gave them a lot of energy. And I think if he played the whole game, they win that game against Iowa State, no doubt about it. So obviously last week they go out and beat Texas on the road as double-digit underdogs. And I think he's just growing week by week because he didn't have much, off-season reps or anything like that with or without the whole COVID thing because he wasn't going to be healthy. So I think the more he plays, the more better he gets. And he is someone who scares me. TCU last year, I remember, had 100 more total yards than us. And, K-State somehow won that game. But I think it'll be a tough day for the defense. Gary Patterson's got a good mind. And I'm honestly scared of Duggan. He's not elite. He's nothing like, an Oklahoma type quarterback, but he definitely can use it. It can beat you on his feet and through the air.
That was our own Ryan Gilbert, host of the 10 of 12 podcast. For all of your top talk about the Big 12 Conference, listen to Ryan Gilbert. Back to you, Gills.
Next question from Power Cat Ryan. How much more of the playbook is realistically available to Will Howard on Saturday after taking the bulk of the number one snaps all week?
Coach Kleiman said nothing's off limits. Like, come on. I mean, There's no way he knows everything that Skylar does. And if he does, maybe your playbook's too easy. But I think they'll have him deep enough into the playbook that he won't be handcuffed. He won't know every play that they have back in there. But I also think he's a smart enough kid that's been around it. They can map stuff up on the sideline and say, this is what we're going to do. And he probably could do a good job of running it. He just feels like a quarterback to me, guys. Just got that whatever a quarterback has, there's that it factor with him. And I just like what I see from him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the whole playbook is going to be truly available for him, but I think you're going to see – if they need to dig out some plays, if it's, I don't know, fourth quarter and K-State's down 10 and they just need something to work, you might see a little bit more creativity trying to make something happen. But, I think what you'll see some, pretty basic stuff to start the game. If it works and it's working, they'll probably stick with it. And if they need to make plays, you might see them go a little bit deeper in it. And, if nothing's really working for them, I could totally see them just going to Nick Ost at that point. I don't think you're going to hit a point where Will Howard is, page 50 of the playbook before you see Nick Ost in there. That's just kind of my opinion on it.
I thought they were maybe one drive away from seeing Nick Ost if Howard didn't turn it around. I know he didn't play terrible, but I'm with you, Zach. If he truly does know the whole playbook, I mean, why didn't we see that on Saturday? I don't know if there was one throw that wasn't just a basic, throw 10 yards down at most. So
I sense that they just got cautious. The coaches did. They thought, we're going to win this. The defense is doing well. We got this. And they pulled in their horns with calling plays, and they threw the whole game out of rhythm. And, Coach Kleiman talked about it on Tuesday, about how they had him in 2 third-down situations, and they threw the ball. The first one's to Sebastian Taylor, and then the second one to Deuce Vaughn that he broke. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't do that earlier in the game. You clearly were just handing it off to Harry Trotter, trying not to turn it over. And I think that's something coaches do. I understand you're trying to be cautious, but you also get so cautious you create the very thing you were fearing, which is defeat. And I'm glad they let him play. I'm glad that he had that check at the line of scrimmage and had the success throwing the ball to Deuce. It was, an easy pass, but probably not in the moment to hit him right in stride like that and break loose. So I'm encouraged. We'll just see what happens. I don't know.
From Herdez Joe, why is no one talking about K-State being +7 in takeaways and in the top 5 in the nation in that category?
I think that's a great question. I mean, because we didn't ask him about it today on the teleconference. I didn't even think of it, to be honest. And I don't know. I think that's something that's underappreciated about Skylar, is he was protecting the ball very well for this team. He wasn't turning it over like a lot of quarterbacks do. The downside of that is sometimes you get a quarterback that gets too cautious and won't make any kind of throw with a degree of risk. But it is really helping K-State. You're winning special teams and winning turnover battles. You're going to win a lot of games. And that's really the formula we're seeing with K-State. And that's the same formula that Bill Snyder used.
Next question from Ema Wildcat 82. Do we still need 6 wins to be bowl eligible? Who would you like to see us play from the SEC, Pac-12, or Big Ten?
No, there's no requirements this year. They removed them. Seriously.
That's official?
That's what I think so, yeah. They've removed them. I mean, they were playing less games, so it's really not 6 wins. It's half your games is what it always was, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they've removed them all and thrown it all open. KU might have a bowl season. Mm-hmm. KU might go 0-10. And I hope they go to that, what is it now, the Cactus Bowl?
It's just the Cactus Bowl.
Yeah, I hope they go there. It's a good pairing. They can have them.
I'd love to see the bowl conference affiliations go out the window this year and have – it's not called the Belk Bowl anymore. It's now the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Oh. I love how it's even worse of a name, but I think the same Twitter staff are still memeing it away. I'd love them just to pick 2 just complete trash teams and just meme the crap out of it for the internet.
I love it.
College football Reddit for all of us to see. That's what I would love to see. Just KU and Boston College or whoever they haven't beat or lost to. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I'd like to see, I don't know. I'd like to see K-State play a team they haven't played, at least recently. Somebody Power 5, maybe someone from the ACC as well. But, it doesn't really matter where they play the game. If there's not many fans or, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw just, schools go out on their own and say, hey, you want to play a bonus game this year? And we'll go play it in, I don't know, Safeco Field in Seattle. I'm just trying to think of indoor places that, may not have a bowl game, just random places that you can just rent out, play a bowl game, have, no fans or, 25% be fans, it just, the bowl game structure doesn't really matter, I guess. I'm sure they'll still use it because there'll still be money, but who knows how much these bowl games are going to be able to pay out
no doubt
in the end as well right now.
They're not going to be able to sell their tickets.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The financials for bowl games just don't really mathematically work unless you're going to try making it a made for TV thing, which is kind of why I proposed just call up a school, go play in the Fargo Dome for all we care.
You just read my mind. The frozen Buffalo game in Fargo. I love it.
Minnesota versus, K-State in the Fargo Dome. But why not just play it in Minneapolis at that point and play a road game, Why not?
Yeah, it'll be intriguing. If they do remove it, I wish they didn't do that. I don't know. But some teams are going to have 7 games. Some teams will have 10 games, so I understand. I don't know. It's just going to be screwy because nobody will go. I mean, fans won't be able to go probably. And even the media, it's usually a week-long thing for us to cover. We won't be there. I mean, Zach will probably go and cover the game. That's it. And everything else will be via Zoom. Unless it's Las Vegas, then I'm going. I'm not going to the game. I'm going to Las Vegas.
You're more likely to catch COVID if you go to Vegas than if you just went to the Legion Stadium, and we're very safe.
There's no science behind it. You're not my personal Dr. Fauci. Nope, I don't believe you. Nope. I am not going to listen to you. Yeah. I'm going to go to one of the most high-risk places in the world to celebrate a bowl game. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Gills, let's get out of this.
All right, ready for the last question of the podcast?
This is it?
This is it from Wildcat Pilot 88. If you were told 6 months ago Oklahoma would be tied with KU at this point in the season, what would be your reaction? Is OU really bad, or are there less miles to go in Lawrence?
I would have thought KU had won some games. You know, they caught two teams. They played Tech and, I don't know, Baylor early, and they beat them. I would have never imagined Oklahoma being 0-2 in the conference. And I think they're going to be 0-3. I just got a feeling they're going to be 0-3. And I'm going to laugh, like that evil laugh, you know, like Dr. Evil. I'm just going to chortle if they're 0-3.
Are we allowed to see the schedule before the season? Like, just looking at the schedule? Because K-State and Iowa State aren't really terribly unrealistic teams for you to lose to in any given year, I guess, you know, based on the last couple of years. So, but then you put out, you know, KU played what, Baylor and Texas Tech? Is that right?
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
No, they played Oklahoma State.
They played Oklahoma State and
I
don't even know.
West Virginia, maybe? Is that right? I don't know.
KU the first week in the Big 12 play was Baylor.
Okay, they played Baylor. Baylor and Oklahoma State. Nah, I would have. If I would have seen the schedule. KU's 0-2. OU's 0-2.
What if
if they're tied on record? Yeah.
What if OU ends up with a losing record in conference play? I'm just gonna laugh. It's not gonna happen.
Well, if they lose next week, they got to go. What, 4-2? I mean.
No, if they lose next week, they got to go 5-1 not to have a losing record. Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, you are right. They can't just go 4-2. They got to go 5-1 if they lose next week. Oh, you got to think they're licking the stamp and mailing it, right?
Oh man,
that stamp is licked if they lose next week.
Which is not safe in this COVID-19 environment. You shouldn't be licking your stamps. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do. Maybe like just use the sweat of your brow or just put the stamp. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's it for this week's Power Cat Questions podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. We had fun. Zach closed his blinds behind him. It was helpful. Gills is in his little studio place, and that's always helpful. And I'm here with Wrestling Dogs. Maybe that'd be another podcast I can create, the Wrestling Dogs podcast, and I will just talk about stuff with the dogs wrestling in the background.
It's going to be disappointing when it's not a pro wrestling podcast. You're going to lose a lot of listeners finding that one.
It's just some guy talking about the weather while dogs bark. That's not this podcast. That's another podcast. And boy, is that one going to be a hit. We'll talk to you next week on this podcast.
PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.